What's up, peeps? This is LA Knight, and I am back to rock your book world with my review of I Darken by Kiersten White. I think it's pronounced Kiersten. It might be Kristen or Kirsten, but I think it's Kiersten. It looks like Kiersten to me, and I have like two friends named Kiersten, and it's spelled the same way, so I'm assuming it's Kiersten. Anyway, I Darken by Kiersten White. I was really interested in this book when I very first heard about it, before it was even out, before like they even had a cover for it, because I had read like the 2-sentence blurby when the book was acquired by the publishing company or whatever. I saw it on Twitter, and it was like, Kiersten White is gonna is gonna publish this book called da-da-da, where this is what happens in it. And the little like one-line summary was an alternate history reimagining where Vlad Tepes, aka Vlad the Impaler, the guy who was a big inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula, what if that very influential historical male figure had been born a woman? And so I was like, ooh, I really want to read this, because I'm a huge fan of the Dracula mythology. Now, she's not a vampire. This isn't a fantasy. This is just an alternate history where that is like the only thing that is different, is that instead of Vladislaus, which is the full version of Vlad, instead of Vladislaus, her name is Vladislata or something. And so like instead of her nickname being Vlad, it's Lada, so everyone calls her Lada. But that's like the only difference in history. But that does make a difference, because Wallachia and the Ottoman Empire back in that time period were very, stacked against women. So like it, and also there was like hostage situations going on, and like the way that hostage, you know what, I'm getting ahead of myself. So that is the basic premise of the book. What if Vlad the Impaler was born a woman? And it's the first in a trilogy. The second one is called Now I Rise, which I haven't read it yet because I don't have an audiobook for it. And the audiobook, I don't even think the audiobook is out yet, which is kind of annoying, because Now I Rise came out in like June or July, and now it's December. And I really want to read it, but I don't have time to actually like hold actual print copies of books and read them, because I am really busy right now. I'm doing a lot of freelance work. Ow, just hit my finger. I'm doing a lot of freelance work to try to supplement my income, because I got fired. Yes, I'm going to bitch about that for the rest of my life. Or, well, at least until it gets resolved, which takes forever. And so I don't really have time to just sit down and read. And Kiersten White's writing is so compelling that I don't want to like try and sit down and read before when I'm trying to fall asleep, and try to read Now I Rise then, because if I do, then I'll never fall asleep ever. That's happened to me several times with other authors. I know my limits now. But I do have an audiobook of I Darken, which is why I was able to reread it in time. I've actually read it in November, reread it in November, but I didn't get a chance to record my review of it until December. It was originally supposed to be part of the whole Novemberween shtick, and instead we're putting it in Decemberween instead, because even though there's no actual vampires, Vlad the Impaler was a huge influence on a horror classic that helped define the genre, and that is Dracula by Bram Stoker. Although I actually like this book a lot more than I like Dracula, but that's because Dracula has a lot of sexist garbage in it that makes me want to stab Bram Stoker's corpse with a stake or pickaxe. Anyway, that's a discussion for a different day. But so, I Darken is about Lada. It starts when she's born. Her dad is like super pissed because, just FYI side note, the reason that Dracula is called Dracula, Draculia, was actually the nickname for Vlad the Impaler, because it meant son of Dracul, and Dracul meant dragon. His father was called the Dragon. I forget why. He was like part of the Order of the Dragon, or like had like he like was like, I don't know. It was something about like he belonged to some kind of sacred order or something. But it's not like, what was interesting was, since Vlad the Impaler and Lada in the book don't spend very much time with their dad at all, because of historical things that happen, like her being taken hostage by the Ottoman Empire, like you would think that like Dracula wouldn't be the thing that people would know this person by, but apparently it is, and I'm not quite sure why. I think maybe, this hasn't happened in the book yet, but I think maybe the real Dracula did end up joining the Order of the Dragon, and that's why. But I don't actually know that for a fact. Anyway, so it starts with Lada being born, and her dad is like super pissed because again, sexism in the historical times. He was like, shit, all I want are sons, and I should have known this would happen because my wife is a weak-willed little bitch. Just FYI, trigger warning, this book has a lot of abuse in it. Lotta's dad is very abusive, although not to Lotta, which is interesting because he doesn't like women. But he hates his wife. He thinks that she's like a complete weakling. And so he abuses her in front of Lotta, and so she develops this like internalized misogyny, where she hates the fact that she is a woman and wants people to treat her like a man because she views other women as weak. This does not change until she meets the mother of the Ottoman Sultan's heir. So not the Sultan's wife, but the mother of his heir, because he has multiple wives. She meets that woman, and she's like, holy shit, that woman is scary, crazy, amazing, and cunning, and clever, and she's totally my enemy, but at least she's not stupid. A lot of the book really, like, it's not very twisty or, like, oh my god, plot twists and intrigue. There is political intrigue, but partially this might be because I actually did know quite a bit about the things that happened to Vlad the Impaler when he was held hostage by the Ottoman Empire, which is what most of the book consists of, is Lotta and her brother Radu being held hostage in the Ottoman Empire. Because the thing is that the Ottoman Empire went to war against Wallachia and a few other places, and then Wallachia basically, like, they were either gonna lose, or they were losing, or they had already lost, and to avoid Vlad II, Lotta's father, I'm just gonna say Lotta even though in real life it was Vlad, Lotta's father went to the Ottoman Empire to try to negotiate, please don't kill me, and they're like, okay, we're not gonna kill you, but you have to give us your kids. And he had like 5 kids, and so they didn't ask for the heir, who ended up dying actually, I think, in real life, because Vlad the Impaler, ended up becoming the leader of Wallachia. Wallachia is where Transylvania, like when you think of Transylvania, that's where Wallachia is, or Wallachia. I've always heard it pronounced Wallachia, but it's probably actually Wallachia. They pronounced it wrong in the audiobook, I think. Like, the way I'm pronouncing it is the way they pronounced it in the audiobook, so if that's not right, they pronounced it wrong in the audiobook. Anyway, but, so Transylvania. We'll just say Transylvania, and that way I'd stop making an idiot out of myself. But, so they don't take the older brother, but I do believe the oldest brother ends up dying eventually anyway, in real life, because that is how Vlad III ended up becoming the leader of Transylvania. But they take, the two youngest, Radu and Lotta, and her dad is like, here, take Radu. But the thing is that they can tell that her dad actually has a soft spot for her. And so they're like, yeah, we'll take that one too. And he's like, what? No, okay. Shit. And it's weird because, like, he because of the historical context of the book, like, you can tell, if you read a lot of historical fiction about royalty, you can tell that he does love Lotta, but not in the way that, like, modern people expect parents to love their children. He doesn't spend a lot of time with her, and when he does, though, it tends to be good things. Him finding out that she can, like, fight with a knife, and she wants to, quote-unquote, kill infidels, which I guess, like, because there's the whole war going on between the Ottoman Empire, which is predominantly Muslim, and Transylvania, which is Catholic. And so that was, like, this was around the time of the Crusades. There was still a lot of prejudice and antagonism between Muslims and Christians, specifically on the part of the Catholics against Muslims. So he raised her with this mindset. She ends up getting over it for the most part, although she's still, like, horrified when her brother converts to Islam, which actually did happen in real life. In real life, Prince Radu did in fact become a practicing faithful Muslim, and ended up becoming really good friends with the boy who then ended up becoming the Sultan. They call him Mehmed in the book, but when I did some research into that, because that was not who I remembered them spending all their time with, it turned out that's, like, a variation on the name Muhammad, so his name is actually Muhammad, but they call him Mehmed. So, what I really liked about the book is that, one, Radu is gay, which there was some hints of that in, like, historical texts and stuff, but nobody actually knew for sure, because you couldn't just say that I mean, he was a prince. Like, any historian who was like, yeah, Prince Radu's gay, their dad would be like, I'm sorry, what'd you say? And, because back then that was, like, a thing to be ashamed of. And then also there is, like, in any religion, there's gonna be issues with whether or not being gay or a lesbian or bisexual or pansexual or transgendered or anything that is not heterosexual cisgendered is acceptable or not. And so so there were like theories that he might have been not, quote unquote, not quite right, but they don't really go into that. And so I liked that Kiersten White did go into that. And actually what I really liked about that specifically was that Kiersten White is a Mormon author, and very few Mormon authors are willing to put themselves out there to write gay characters. I believe the only one who's done it, other than her and me, is what's his name? Oh, that asshole, Orson Scott Card, who is an asshole and hates gay people. So, like, that's never a good thing when a homophobe is writing gay characters, because you know why they do it, not for any good reason. But, so I liked that she was willing to take that and run with it and not portray it in a negative way and, like, give it its credence. And, like, she didn't use Radu as a lesson for Lada. Like his being gay was not there as a plot device for other people. He has his own developed storyline where he, grows into himself. He grows into, like, acknowledging that he is gay. He gets a boyfriend. And it's actually kind of interesting because he gets a boyfriend, and then and his boyfriend is Muslim too, but but his boyfriend's dad is one of those people that is like, no, you can't be gay, and he doesn't know a lot about Islam at this point. He wants to convert but he's getting his information from a very small group of people, and he has this older friend who's like basically he's not a priest, but he's very well versed. He is a practicing Muslim who knows a lot about Islam, who's like made a point to study it. And so he goes to his friend and he's like, what, he can't be outright, hey, I'm gay, what do I do? Because, politics and history and prejudice and reasons. But he basically is like, I've got this problem, blah, blah, blah. And his friend is really great about it and is like, look, dude. And the friend is an adult, so an adult. So the friend is not like, look, young man, I think you'll get over it in time. No, he totally takes him seriously. He handles it really well. I really liked it. And the thing is, though, his friend is like, here's what you need to do. You need to get married to a girl. And Radu's like, I don't think I could do that. But the girl that the guy has in mind is a lesbian. And he knows she's a lesbian, and she has a girlfriend that they're, like, committed to each other. And so his idea, this friend, is he's like, hey, you two can get married and basically act as like each other's beards. If for those who don't know, a beard is what some gay people or some people who are not straight will openly date someone of the quote unquote appropriate gender to alleviate any suspicion that they are not straight, and that's called a beard. So the friend is like, yeah, you guys can totally date or marry each other, and because I know it's the guy's sister, and he's like, I know that my sister will be nice to you, and I know that you'll be nice to my sister, and I know that neither one of you will disrespect the separate relationships you have with the people that you're in love with. So that was, like, really, really cool, but it didn't actually happen in the book, and so I'm hoping it happens in Now I Rise. Because I just think that's really interesting. Like, I've always wondered, like, there was a book that came out sort of recently about a princess who's a lesbian, and she had to get married to a prince, and then I guess, like, before she gets married, it's like to forge an alliance, she has to marry this prince, but she falls in love with his sister, and so she runs away with the sister, and I'm like, couldn't you just tell why did that have to be the story? Couldn't you just have the brother / groom not be a douchebag, and so, like, tell him that, you like the sister, and so you guys can get married, but you're really there for the sister? Like, couldn't that be a thing? That's what happened in Game of Thrones, okay? And Game of Thrones has a lot of shit wrong with it, but the relationship between Marjorie Tyrell, Sir Loras of the Flowers, her gay brother, and Renly Baratheon, who is Loras's lover and Marjorie's husband, that was, like, a really great relationship. No, Grant, and actually, it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire show. I haven't read in the books as far as I've seen in the show, so I don't know if that was there in the books. But there's this scene because Marjorie has to have a baby because, like, heirs are a thing that you need. And so she goes to Renly and, like, is trying to be nice but seduce him at the same time. But he can't perform with women, and so he's getting, like, uncomfortable and he feels like he's embarrassed. And she's totally chill about it. And she's like, should I go get Loris? And he's like, wait, what? And she's like, just to get you started, and then, like, you and I can finish. Or, like, I can roll over and because I look like him in the dark, so, like, I can just roll over and you can pretend I'm him. And Renly's like, wait, what? Because he, like, had no idea that she knew that he was gay. And it was really funny, but really sweet at the same time because she was so understanding. And I'm like, why can't that be a thing that happens more often in books? And that was why I wanted to see it in And I Darken, and so I'm really hoping that it happens in Now I Rise. The only thing that's sad is that the boyfriend, Radu's boyfriend, ends up dumping him, which sucks, but he ends up falling in love with Muhammad. And the thing is that Muhammad's in love with Lada, and Lada's in love with Muhammad, but you don't know if Muhammad is also in love with Radu or not, because we never get anything from his point of view. And so he could very well be in love with both of them. Like, I don't get the sense that he isn't. Like, now, the thing is also, I don't assume that everyone in a book is straight. I don't make any assumptions about sexual orientation until I get evidence of what somebody's sexual orientation is. But the thing is that we see so little of Muhammad, when he's not with Radu or Lada, that we have no idea what he does in his spare time. I mean, he does have wives because he ends up becoming the Sultan. He has wives and he ends up getting a couple of them pregnant, but he also needs heirs. So, like, just because he's having sex with these women doesn't mean he is specifically straight. He could very well be bisexual, and we have no idea. And I wish we did, but we don't. And I would like to find out, because I think a menage would, that would just be an interesting dynamic. I personally would not be able to share somebody that I was romantically inclined toward with one of my siblings. Although if I had a sibling that was closer to me in age, maybe I could. I have no idea. But I've actually never really thought about it that much. But because, like, I don't think that I could because of the siblings that I have. But also because both my brothers are straight, and my sister is, like, almost 20 years older than I am. So there's that. So, like, one of the things that I really like, even though And I Darken is supposed to be, quote unquote, Lada's book, we get enough of Lada and Radu that I really got attached to Radu, and it's really nice to see him grow from the very timid child he is at the beginning to this very politically savvy, cunning young man who, while politically savvy and cunning, isn't a dick. He's not using his cunning to hurt people. He's trying to protect Muhammad. Go home. Radu never liked his brothers. He never liked his parents. The only person he ever really cared about was Lada, and their relationship is, like, really weird. That's the other thing, but it's because she's trying to protect him, and that doesn't make it okay. But I can sympathize while also disapproving, if you know what I mean. I remember I had a friend when I was in the 7th grade. Now, granted, I was an emotional mess in 7th grade. I had severe PTSD already. I was a self-harmer. I had tried to commit suicide multiple times before I met this kid that I became friends with, and I could tell that he was not as, like, hardened as I was against kids picking on him. He would get so upset when kids would pick on him, and he would show it. And now, as an adult, having had therapy and becoming, like, getting some emotional distance from the situation, it's okay to be upset, and like, you should never feel ashamed of being upset because somebody has hurt you. Like, you have the right to be upset about that. But at the time, I didn't even think he should be ashamed at the time, but at the time I was like, you can't keep showing your emotions like this. They're gonna get you killed. And I actually literally meant get him killed. Like, eventually he was gonna be so hurt and heartbroken and soul sick that he was probably gonna end up killing himself. I was terrified that was gonna happen. And because he was like one of my only friends, and I loved him. I still love him, actually, because we're still in contact. And I just adored him so much, but I was so worried about him all the time. And so I was so mean to him all the time. And we actually did lose contact because I moved away. And then when I tried to reconnect when we were a little bit older in our late teens, he remembered that I was mean to him all the time. And now that we're both adults, he's like, you know, I totally understood where you're coming from. And, like, I appreciate what you were trying to do. And, like, and I'm not mad about it anymore. And I totally forgive you. And I'm like, you know, thank you, because I feel terrible. And I'm laughing, but I felt so bad once I started going to therapy and I realized, like, how inappropriately I had handled that situation. But so I can sympathize with Lotta that's why she treats Radu the way she does, is because she is so scared that he's going to get himself killed. And it's way more easy for him to get killed in this situation than it was for me and my friend in 7th grade, because, like, they're political hostages. And there are people there who are looking to hurt them. Like, really hurt them or get them killed. Like, actively trying to get them killed. And so it's really just, like, she's wrong and she's abusive. In, like, what she's doing is abusive, but it's the only thing she knows to do. And so it's kind of sad, but it's totally realistic at the same time. And what I like is that Radu, while he doesn't like it and does not excuse what she does, he understands why she's doing it. And so, like, it's interesting because even though she's trying to get him stronger so he can stand on his own, it's not working, but he does end up standing on his own. Like, he eventually, because of all the shit that's going on, he ends up being able to stand on his own 2 feet because he has to, not because she makes him, if that makes sense. It's a really complex and interesting book, but it's not very, like, plot twisty. There's nothing in it that, like, you wouldn't see coming. The only thing that happened that was, like, really just stunning, terrible, awful, well, there were 2 things. One, there was this guy that I wasn't expecting. I knew he was a bad guy, but I wasn't expecting him to be as bad as he was, who tries to rape Lotta, and I was not expecting that. She ends up killing him. It's not a big deal. I mean, like, her almost getting raped is a big deal, yes. Her killing him is not a big deal. She doesn't get in trouble. She doesn't, like, you know, Mohammed is like, what happened? She's like, he tried to rape me, so I killed him. And her best friend, who is one of the super soldiers, basically, for the Sultan, is like, what happened? Because she trains with them, and that's why this guy went after her. It's because he's like, you're a woman, you don't belong here, and she, like, for years was just like, fuck you, I can do what I want. And he finally got fed up with it and attacked her. And so the leader, who is also her friend, is like, what the hell just happened? And she's like, well, he tried to rape me and I killed him. And he's like, oh, well, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Go take care of the corpse. Oh, okay. Like, it's really chill and laid back, but, like, back then, death was, like, less of a big deal, I think, than now. Like, you know, now, most people, I'm not even gonna say most people, a lot of people in the United States have never seen a dead body that wasn't on TV or at a funeral. Most people in the United States, especially teenage girls, have not killed somebody. Now, granted, there are people who fit into that demographic, but it's not as, normalized as it was probably back then, because back then, like, you know, people killed people all the time. There were wars all the time, bandits, robbers, highwaymen, tax collectors. I mean, we have those things now, but it's because of we have police and things and semi-automatic weapons, and like, we found better ways to kill each other, but less personal ones, if you know what I mean. You know, most of the time when you want to off somebody, you go and shoot them in the head. You don't, you know, kidnap them and then slice them into tiny pieces. That's usually the work of the serial killer now. So, like, so other than that guy, that thing happening with that guy and her killing him, I was waiting for that to happen. Him attacking her first, I didn't think she would need that impetus to go after him. I figured she would just kill him eventually. I mean, she's, you know, Vlad the Impaler, basically. I figured she'd kill him eventually. You also get, like, a really good look at why Vlad the Impaler, the real Vlad the Impaler, if this is the kind of shit he went through, why he ended up being Vlad, you know, so famous as Vlad the Impaler. You know, that's his moniker. He literally impaled people, and not just soldiers, like women, children. He was notorious across Eastern Europe, and you see in this book, like, the seeds of that beginning to grow, but understandably, like, not like that it's okay, but you can see why somebody would end up being a person who thinks they need to go to those kinds of lengths. The book is just really interestingly written. It's really, it explores. The only thing is that I wish that Lotta could have a female friend, but at the same time, based on, like, the situation that the real Vladislav was in, I understand why he wouldn't have a female friend. Like, why he wouldn't view women in that way, and why he would be raised to view women in a negative way, so I can see why Lotta would do that, but I am hoping that at some point she ends up making a female friend in Now I Rise. I would like to see that, because while there are strong women in the book, they are not viewed as allies to the main character. And I would like to see that happen. But I would recommend this book to anyone who's got an interest in history. The book is very well researched. It's a really interesting perspective, like how would a young woman who was raised by a man who wanted her to be a boy try to grasp for power in a world that is stacked against her because of her gender? It's a really, like I keep saying this, it's a really interesting book. I really liked it. It is really dark though. So like if you're triggered by abuse, like, you know, I'm warning you now. Her dad is abusive. Her relationship with her brother is completely fucked up. Muhammad's dad is a really bad person and arranges for Lotta and Radu to be psychologically tortured when they're kids because he views them as enemies and doesn't like them and wants them to suffer. And I think their oldest brother is abusive also, if I'm remembering right, but he's like barely in the book, so it doesn't really matter. And also he ends up dying, I'm pretty sure. The only thing is, I really want to read Now I Rise because there's an old friend of Lotta's who disappears fairly early on in the book, and then he comes back. She finds him when they're both in their late teens, and they're reunited, and it's so great. But she hasn't seen this boy in like 10 years. He could be an axe-murdering circus freak with a hairy back, for all she knows. That was a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reference, by the way. She has no idea who this guy is anymore. And so I'm like, it would be great if he was loyal, but me, my suspicious rogue soul, my anti-paladin nature, I'm just like, what is your angle, you dude? What do you want? I'm curious. So I want to read Now I Rise because I want to see what that asshole's gonna do. And I shouldn't call him an asshole because he hasn't done anything wrong yet. But yet. Notice I said yet. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. So, yeah. That's the only thing is that I wish I could read and Now I Rise because, like, I liked And I Darken enough that I was like, oh crap, I shouldn't have read this until the second book came out. And then that's why it was nice to reread it because then I could, like, sort of, like, get my fix. Because I can't read Now I Rise right now, I really, 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 really need to get my hands on that book. I have a hard copy of the book. I just don't have time to read it. Ugh. I need an audio copy. Son of a bitch. Anyway. Thanks for listening. Hit the like button if you love me. Subscribe for more of me. Or you can leave a comment down below. And don't forget to check me out on 8 Tracks, Archive of Our Own, DeviantArt, Etsy, fanfiction.net, fictionpress.com, finfiction.net, Goodreads, Patreon, Pinterest, Tumblr, Twitter, Wattpad, and YouTube. Or you can buy me a coffee. Oh my god, that was all in 1.5 breaths. Whew. And I'll paste all of those links in the doobly-doo down below. Thanks so much. Love you all. And a special shout out to my lovely patrons, Amanda, Belle, Chelsea, Cynthia, Lorien, and Whitney. To get a shout out, support me on Patreon. And always remember, you guys, you are loved. And I'll talk to you later. Bye!